I don't mind being gone on adventures for a while. No, no.
Hi everybody. It is 7:56 on Sunday, April 2nd, 2023. And I am officially, as of like noon today, I'm going to be officially 1 month post-op from my Baclofen pump revision or replacement or whatever the word you want to use is. But I thought this is a good time as any time is to basically talk about what the heck has happened this last month. Now, if you didn't see my last video telling you guys what happened, basically about 2 or 3 days after the surgery, I had a complication where my legs felt like jello, and I immediately stood up and they just gave out from under me. And, I gracefully fell to the ground, because if I learned anything in my 15 years of clinic therapy as a child, it was how to fall and how to get back up. Sorry, so many jump cuts when I wanted this video to literally be a one-hit wonder, but my mom was calling me and I have to answer from my mom. But anyways, so I gracefully went to the ground and then we got up. And then that was at 2 o'clock in the morning too, mind you, because I was going to the restroom. And then there was a snowstorm, and the day the snowstorm happened, it happened again. I would say this one was more severe because I needed 4 people to get me up. So we called my aunt, my sister, my brother-in-law, and my mom all got me up. Anyways, and then, but of course that had to happen during a snowstorm. So we called my doctor. Oh, so back up. So that was, so that night that happened at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're like, oh, it could be the pain medication, because they gave me a really powerful pain medication, which obviously, after you get surgery, you're in pain, or, they predict, oh, you're in pain and whatever. So they gave me pain medication, but the side effect of that pain medication, although it could be rare or whatever, or, it's here and there, is muscle rigidity. It's, restless legs. It's, all the stuff I deal with on a daily basis. So, I wouldn't know whether it's my pump acting up or the medication. So we just stopped it, and we were just using extra strength Tylenol as needed. Because every day you get better, every day you heal a little bit more, and so on and so forth. And so then, meanwhile, I'm just let me get back on the bike. It's going to be 2 weeks, boom, and then I'm going to be back doing Peloton spin classes, blah, 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 whatever. So, but the day that happens, the day the real, 4 people need to get me up thing happens, my doctor was like, oh, you need to go to the hospital, could be a UTI, whatever. In which he's still kind of convinced that it was a raging UTI, but we have no proof in that. But it just, other than my frequent urination, but I mean, that could have been other things as well. But anyways, so we go to the hospital. Takes 4 people to get me on the bed. They have no Hoyer lift. They have no nothing. And I'm like, what the actual fuck is going on here? Excuse my language, but it's like, you have nothing to help either old people, like so Grandma Sally, or like disabled people, or anything. Like, so I just gotta be kind of manhandled, for lack of a better word, by these nurses and PCAs and whatever. So anyways, so they get me in the bed and they're like, okay, well, can you give a pee sample? And I said, well, I could try. Okay, so the nurse puts the thing underneath me, the bedpan, and she misses where to put it. And I tell you, my grandma must have been watching out for me, because this much of what she needed went in there. But it wasn't, they didn't use any catheter or anything, so it wasn't like clean, wasn't, I don't know, whatever. So that test went to get sent off, and then they did 1,000,000 blood works, million of them, basically. But I have this is the words they use. They said very squiggly, tiny veins. So like you can see all these veins on my arms, my veins show through, but they don't, they're not usable for IVs apparently. So apparently I have like 1 or 2 good veins for IVs, and that's it. And I'm like, what the hell? So they get them. Takes 3 people, but they get them. So then they want to test me for sepsis, which that was something that never happened to me before, like has literally never happened. So that test isn't, just blood work. It's blood work from both hands. So that's more pokes. Fun. So then multiple hours later, like literally multiple hours, I literally have not eaten anything. I have not, drank anything, nothing. The doctor comes in. He goes, well, so basically he goes, so my next step would be to order a CAT scan, but like, I don't know what you want me to do. So do you want me to order a CAT scan? Now, I've never been one to be like, I know more than you type of deal, because listen, I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to medical school, even though like half the time I feel like they're reading out of textbooks. Like I didn't study like all those hours, you know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna step on you to say this, but I said, listen. So meanwhile, before we even went to the ER, my doctor who manages my pump on the regular basis, who told me to go to the ER, he was like, here, take my phone number, text me. Basically, text me if anything happens so I know what's going on. But also, thanks to technology, he was able to look in my chart, which that's the other thing, right? So they're sending me for all this blood work and all this stuff, and then they're coming back like 2 hours later saying, oh, the blood work is normal. And I'm like, oh yeah, that popped up on my phone 15 seconds after you guys left. And she goes, oh, ha, isn't that kind of funny? But I'm like, oh my God, whatever. I mean, like, the nurses were great, but after like hour 4, 5, 6 doing this, I'm like, oh my God. But anyways, so he's like, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, listen, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job. He goes, no, talk to me. I'd rather like, and he wasn't like being like, let's collaborate kind of thing. He was like, no, basically tell me what to do. Well, at least that's the impression I got. So I gave him the doctor's number because, of course, they won't talk to my mother, which I don't know why, because I put her on every single paper I have, but whatever. And so then like my doctor that I see pretty regularly approves the CAT scan. He's like, it's fine. It's good to have it anyways. So we get the CAT scan, which is another IV, and then that takes 3 people. Literally, my mom has a picture. Takes 3 people to get that IV in me. It's ridiculous. And they had to use the smaller needle size, whatever, which they're like, oh, we don't know if that's gonna work, blah blah blah. So then CAT scan gets delayed probably another hour. I'm like, oh, did somebody have like an emergency? No, it's because they need a pregnancy test. Okay, so here's my little rant regarding the pregnancy test. First of all, I understand that, like, if people are trying to get pregnant, they may not know if they're pregnant, whatever, or like there may be other situations where like stuff goes down and you don't know what happened. Like, I totally get it. But first of all, for me as a single woman who has never even looked at a boy, basically, in that way, other than like movie stars, I'm just like, oh my God. And then honestly, like, I don't know if I'll be able to have children because of my physical limitations, So for me to keep getting these pregnancy tests, I'm like, yeah, that kind of stings a little bit, but whatever. Anyways, and I'm like, they're like, can you pee anymore? And I'm like, no, I like literally have no fluid left in me, like no water, no juice, no nothing, nothing. And they're like, oh, well, we'll just tack it on to that blood that we just took. And I'm like, good, use that for something because you took so much. So that comes back. And then I finally go up to this CAT scan. So this is the first test that I've ever had without my mom. So the transport person comes to get me. Now, meanwhile, I'm nervous babbling at this point. I'm like, oh, it's dark up here. It's dark. It's quiet, Guy's like stone-faced. Doesn't offer me anything, And I'm just like, oh, can I be back at the children's hospital where they at least talk to you? Because, like, these people are ridiculous. So I get in the room of the CAT scan, and I think what I meet is my guardian angel, right? Because I'm nervous babbling to this tech guy who runs the whole machine, and he's babbling back to me, So I'm like, oh, my guardian angel, thank God, So I think my grandma sent him too, So he's like, okay, it's gonna burn and it's gonna make you feel like you peed your pants because it's the contrast. And I'm like, okay, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, it's gonna make you wish that you were somewhere tropical. And I'm like, oh, well, I do wish that after today, And then, so we get the test done. We're like, woo, it's done, And I finally get the courage to ask him. I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to be mean or rude or whatever, but the communication here is a little lacking. So how long can I expect to be read this test result? And he goes, well, there's one more person in front of you, but I'm going to put yours, right there. So he's going to read it. So then I get back down on my mom. And meanwhile, my butt is numb from laying in this hospital bed for like 8 hours at this point, or like 12 hours at this point, because now it's like 8 o'clock, 8:30, that I get done. And so she gets me out of my chair with these nurses, and I'm sitting up, and they're like, oh, well, do you want to go AMA, which is against medical advice or whatever it's called. And I said, no. No. But I've been here all day, and I'm not going to wait here for some doctor to come read me CAT scan results. Can't you just call me tomorrow? And they go, no, that doesn't, it's not how it works. So whatever. 45 minutes, they come back later. and the doctor comes in. Meanwhile, it's a completely other doctor. And so he's like, yeah, we didn't really see anything on here, blah, blah, blah. Like, nothing that's concerning the pump or anything. But I know it's, meanwhile, at this point, I am sobbing, crying, because I don't have my anxiety medicine, and it's time for my anxiety medicine. My alarm already went off to take it, whatever. And clearly it works because I need it, whatever. So, but also that I'm in a high stress environment, and, and so he's like, I'm gonna get you out of here, but I know, like, I just want to call your doctor, meaning the doctor I see on a regular basis, and ask him, like, what are we doing? Basically, like, what I inferred from it, like, is it okay if I send her home, blah, blah, blah. And so, meanwhile, it's like 9:30, so I'm like, I need to get this man a muffin basket, because if somebody calls my phone at 9:30 at night on a Tuesday, you better, like, have some issue. Which I did, but, like, still. So he does. We ended up leaving. But that 45 minutes that I spoke about a couple seconds ago took 45 minutes from the time that he said I can leave to the time that I got my discharge papers. Now it's pitch dark outside. It's like 10 o'clock now. We roll through some fast food just to get something to eat because I'm starving. I'm so thirsty. I'm starving, And we get home. My aunt helps me get settled to bed, and we go to sleep. And then we wake up the next day, and I actually feel a little better, And my doctor gave me the choice to either go in on Wednesday or Thursday, because this all that ER visit for 12 hours happened on a Tuesday. And I was like, I am so tired. I'm so weak. I just need a minute to, like, compose myself. So then I feel a little better on Wednesday. But then as the nighttime comes, I'm feeling, like, real dizzy. I'm rigid again. My legs are like jello. I can barely move. No, my legs are stiff and I can barely move. But I go to bed. Or no. I'm sorry. I'm getting it mixed up. So the other caveat that happened on Tuesday morning, the snowstorm, was that my phone was blaring in my ear and I didn't wake up to it. Now, for obvious reasons, my phone is always with me. I do YouTube, I, text my friends and blah, blah, blah. And my mom, like, tried to wake me up. Not working. Didn't work until she blasted the lights in my face, and then I woke up. So that freaked the hell out of her, okay? And so then we, that also happened. So that was also very concerning to my doctor. So Wednesday morning, I wake up to my alarm. So I'm like, oh, check 1, progress, because every day it's something different. So I get up, I use the bedpan to go to the bathroom again. Everything's good. And then I even go to the real toilet once because I'm good. And then I use the commode another time and then I gracefully fall to the floor again. But this time we call my cousins to help me get up, and they do, which also I need to like get them like gift card to the bar or something, because they really do help a lot. My entire family does, honestly, like my mom's side and stuff, so they're really, really sweet. So, and then, like 5 o'clock rolls around, and I'm like sitting on FaceTime with my niece, but I'm like this. Like my eyes are closed, but I'm talking. And I'm like, hi, da, 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 da. My mom's like, can you open your eyes? I'm like, barely, And so then I start vomiting, and so that's real fun. So, gets a little bit worse, and then they end up calling the ambulance. So I had 2 ambulance rides that day. You leaving? Okay. No. Okay. So I ended up having 2 ambulance rides that day because I went to the local ER, which is what happens obviously when you need care like that. You just go to the closest one. But then they're like, oh no, this is a little more complicated. So we go to another one. But while I was at that ER, they intubate me, full-fledged, ventilator, or there's another name for the ventilator, but whatever. The ventilator, the tube, the whole 9 yards. And I have a picture, but it's very traumatic. I haven't even shared it with my best friends because it's just really, really fucking traumatic. So it's just a lot. And so then I have the tube in all of Thursday. All of Thursday. Literally, I sleep all of Thursday. Well, I shouldn't say I sleep, but I'm sedated all of Thursday. And then I have it in Friday. Have it in on Friday. And I'm like writing on a piece of paper. I'm like, please get this tube out. And then I'm like telling my mom, I'm like, I miss Nani. Like, I'm very upset right now, as anybody would. It's very uncomfortable. Meanwhile, they have like the little soft like restraints on you, so I don't pull the tube out, but like I'm like, please just get it out. Like I won't pull it out and whatever. Meanwhile, apparently the whole ICU knows who I am, because they're like, after I get the tube out, they're like, oh, you're not angry anymore. And so I'm like, yeah, I guess I was an angry elf, huh? Kind of thing. So meanwhile, I'm like, just please get it out. Please just get it out. It fucking hurts. It like, they keep having to suction me, whatever. And so then, but they're like, no, we can't take it out just yet because you need an MRI. So I'm like, oh, hell's bells. So an MRI is different than a CAT scan, obviously. And they do the MRI sedated because they're like, can you sit there for an hour? And I said, probably not. I think the CAT scan was only like 20 minutes. So that wasn't that bad. But an hour is probably longer, or an hour is longer, And so, whatever, so they do the MRI, but the thing with the MRI is because I have a metal implant, which is this brand new pump that I have, they have to get it checked. So they call the person to get it checked. That takes forever because it's not like some Joe Schmo down the street. It's got to be somebody that knows what they're doing. So finally, I think at noon on Saturday they pull it out finally, and that was the most traumatic experience ever. And I'm currently working through all of this in therapy, but it was the effing worst. It was so bad. It was honestly a moment I'll never forget, because they pull it out, and like the only thing I can equate it to is that you hear like a button pop. You hear a button pop, and then you could breathe, and then all of a sudden you feel this tube in your throat, and it's not good. So they get it out. Fucking traumatic, like literally the worst. And of course I vomit, I vomit again, but there's nothing in me, so it's just whatever. Although apparently I did have a feeding tube in my nose, but they didn't give me any like food or like nutrition through it. It was only just to do meds, and it was to do like an antacid medication, because I guess like reflux is a thing when you're on these tubes. I don't know. But anyway, so finally get it out, whatever. And then like they're just like, well, we don't really know what happened, we see you're on some, seizure medication. And I'm like, no, I take those seizure medications for mental health, which I didn't want to admit that because, and this is the real shitty part of the healthcare system, at least in my experience, is that when you admit you have mental health issues, they automatically blame it on that mental health problem, or they say, oh, it's anxiety, or oh, it's depression, or oh, it's this, that, which, for some cases might be true, but me blacking out and passing out and being unresponsive is not the case. So they're like, oh, well, you missed some doses, so you could be in withdrawal, which could cause a drug, like a drug-induced seizure or whatever. And I'm like, I've never missed a dose in my life. Like, I don't do that. Like, I have alarms all the time. And even if I did throw up, like, I've gotten sick, stomach bugs, whatever, and it's been fine, right? Whatever. So that I just kind of let it roll off my back, because, they don't really know me. This is the part where they're looking at the textbook, right? They're like, oh, so what's wrong? Like, but again, I'm not gonna, talk down to these people, because they're, all in all, they were very, very nice. The ER doctor kind of sucked, but once I got to the ICU, oh, that was the other thing. I was in the ICU. So once I was awake and I had the tube out, my mom couldn't stay with me. So I had 2 nights in the ICU where I didn't really sleep that well. And I haven't really slept well since. I'm trying to get back into my sleep rhythm, but I can only sleep a couple of hours before I have to wake up and I have to get comfortable again, and I have to like watch something on my phone or do a meditation or whatever. It's ridiculous. So immediately after we break out of the ICU, we see my doctor, finally, my real doctor. And I am sobbing. Once I get into the office, I'm a mess. It's a mess. So his theory is that, now meanwhile, he's still looking at my chart like he was at the other hospital. Which, thank God, because like, I didn't have to explain what was happening, So his theory is that my pump was working really efficiently, not saying that the other pump was not working, but that this pump is working like way better than the other pump was. Kind of like when you get a new phone and like once you start using it, your other phone's like, wow, that's a dinosaur, you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that I can make it to. So then, so his plan, so that means that I don't need as much medication as I was getting. So his plan is to gradually lower the dose. We lowered it once already. That was like 2 weeks ago. And in fact, we are going back on Thursday of this week. So what is that? April something, whatever, to lower it again. I think April 5th, because it's like a couple days before my birthday. And my birthday is April 10th. And so for the last 2 weeks, I've had in-home PT, OT, trying to get back to baseline. And if you watch the video from yesterday was the best mobility day that I've had since I was able to actually get to the real toilet. You know, it's been slow going, but every day's been better. But yesterday's been the best day that I've had. So I'm hoping at least one more week of PT and that's it. I'm scheduled for 4 weeks, so I'm probably just going to use the 4 weeks just to be safe. But hopefully I don't actually need them all, you know? Yeah. And I still haven't gotten on my dang bike yet. So honestly, I see my therapist tomorrow, I believe. So I'm going to make that my goal to get on my bike. And that's it. But honestly, that's the update. And then the other thing is that I have gotten my staples out. I got those out on the 20th, I think. But the only thing is that my pump site still hurts. Like I'm unable to sleep on my stomach as of like the last 3 days. It's been starting to hurt again. I don't know if it's just like all the transfers and the moving and it's just like sore or what's happening, but it hurts again. But yeah, that is the update. It's been a month of hell. Honestly, it's been a really hard month. But that is the vlog for today because I'm all tucked out and honestly, it's just going to be another day of transfers. So I'm going to leave you here and I'm going to say thank you for watching and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.